Alright. Recording started.
Yeah. Welcome back, folks, to Children of Morta with me, Cornish Knight, and my fantastic co-host, DFuxa.
Hey ho!
And we've got through the third chapter. We've basically found out that we're not really in a fantasy setting at all. We're basically in a science fiction setting, and the god isn't really a god. He's basically an alien who's got a massive grudge on his shoulder because he had a kid and with his wife, and he got jealous that he wasn't getting all the love anymore. So, yeah. So basically, a ginormous man-child god, well, man-child alien, and we're gonna have to go and teach him a lesson about being a decent, half-decent parent.
So let's get to it. Chapter select.
Yeah.
Cinematic that follows.
Their final destination was on the other side of that gate. The ending was nigh.
Okay. Let's go.
Alright, who do you want to take? It's the final showdown.
I'm gonna take Linda because she's really good at basically VIP sniping. Like, a lot of her abilities are really good at taking down, like, boss characters.
I guess I'll take John because he's the next highest level character.
Yeah.
And we really need the highest level characters for this one.
Yeah. Do we have, like... Oh, well. I'm not going to ask what lies ahead, if it's just going to be a boss battle or if we're going to have to fight for a dungeon.
A bit of both, actually.
Ah.
So we get our bonuses here.
So what's this? Summon a dragon that damages enemies and leaves a pool of damage.
Decrease rage
Decrease
drain.
rage drain. And inflict lightning damage when combo kill counter reaches high levels. I'm going to grab Decrease Rage Drain because her ability is really rage dependent, and I think that would be quite useful for you to correct.
Yep.
Okay.
So, here we go.
Let me just level up. I got actually, wait, I don't have a skill point. I thought I did. Okay.
John does.
Yeah. Okay.
So now I got Shield Dash.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, let's go then. So we're basically... This is basically like Stargate, if anyone remember the old TV series STG. Like, we're basically inside a giant pyramid.
On the throne, the mountain god U himself, without Rheadana's love, the darkness had swollen inside him, consuming and uncontainable.
Yeah, basically, he's basically... It has all has to be about him.
Yep. And here comes everyone to basically help.
Yep. Where's the other? We're missing two other people. Oh, so it's going to be a bullet hell, is it? Ouch, nasty hit.
And without Rheadana's love, jealousy would swallow her children.
And here we go. Oh great, I got a level up in a fight I can't do anything with. Sniper mode engaged. Where'd you go? Come here. Come on. Well, I still have sniper mode. What's going on?
And then we got into a second part.
Heavy as iron and difficult to breathe in, the air burned their lungs. It was pitch black. The light meant protection and hope.
Oh, do we have to stay in the
And
bubble?
the Bergson had to rescue the others as well.
Oh man.
Rescue me. Or I guess I'm dead.
Well, I can't get you.
Yep,
How was
this will be interesting. So yeah, basically the idea is like you have to stay in that bubble and rescue everyone.
Yeah, well that's great and all, but if I'd known that this was going to be how it was going to go down, I wouldn't have chosen this character. Because I can't actually control where this character, where this...
She just sort of guides around basically, so... I think it's supposed to be that I'm supposed to stay up at this part, but I went down right at the last bit there, so...
There it was. The protection of another light.
Like what they should have done here is I actually had, so, like, you know,
found.
the other players basically down to rescue him first,
Still
but well,
in
yeah.
danger from the darkness. The rest of the family had to be saved.
This is really hard for this character to do.
well, you're staying alive pretty well because of the healing bit, I guess.
Yeah. I hope I get you back.
I assume you'll get me back as soon as we get to like the last, and you can rescue me there. How many characters have you rescued now?
2. Can't you see anything?
Nope, I'm just stuck on my own character here, so...
Oh, that sucks then, yeah.
And yet another light, fending off the darkness. For now. Time was short.
I wish you actually got these as like
Final battle
companions.
was nearing its end.
Oh, I got my health back.
Yeah. Let's not do that again.
The Bergsons knew that this was the final step. Love must prevail over hatred.
Kill him. Kill him with holy flame. I'm not going to lie, I'm
down.
using the NPCs as bullet sponges.
I'm already down up here, so...
You're dead?
Just kill if you can.
Okay. Come on, snipe, snipe! There we go. I didn't take a single hit.
That's good. I think I took all the hits.
The Supreme One, master of all and master of nothing. His greatest fear was made absolute. He was left alone. Left alone to his misery and failure, to the unending cycle of despair and pain. He wished for its end, wished to bathe in an eternal darkness. Mercy prevailed as the wheel had turned back to kindness. That which was expelled from the heart returned. All the time apart melting away, along with all the pain, all the sadness, and all the misery. land met sky, two became one. Love ignited rapture as innocence flooded the space between breaths. Happiness and curiosity weaved, mixed, and tangled in a dance a millennium in coming. As the one ascended, but will never leave, a family looked upon the mountain and land over which they were given ward. A family left exhausted was now more complete than before. A god once stricken with grief was now whole. And a land once cast into chaos was now left in serene balance. As the story comes to its conclusion, remember this. When the time spent in this land is looked back upon, when daring feats are recited along with victories and defeats, remember that it was not a tale of heroes or villains, nor of good and evil, but one of family, and above all else, a tale of love. Go now, Guardian, and never forget.
I gotta say, it was pretty against good and evil because Mountain God wasn't a nice guy. Like, who demands child sacrifices just because your wife you had a marital spat with your wife?
Well, that's the finished story. Sacrifice a child because I want all the love.
Yeah.
Anyhow, that's the game.
Yeah. Thanks for partaking in this adventure with me, DFuxa.
What are your thoughts on the games there, Cornish?
For a roguelike, it's a pretty decent roguelike. I do think that, well, it suffers the same flaw that most roguelikes do, which it expects you to lose a lot, which means that a lot of the cut screens and stuff are hidden behind defeats. Like, you have to go through multiple playthrough, like multiple sort of attempts to get all the cut screens and all the things to unlock.
And there's no way to basically go back to a meter.
Yeah. I will say that the overall story, it's not a bad story for a roguelike. I'm going to admit that I'm not a massive fan of it being, oh, they're basically aliens, and it's all like science fiction rather than it being like magic. But the story is basically passable. It's nothing sort of like groundbreaking. It's a good story for a roguelike. The art style of the game I liked a lot. I thought it had a very nice, unique art style, and the combat was fun and engaging. So it's a very solid game for me. Like, it's not in my top tier of games, but it's not a bad game at all. What do you think?
The only thing I really disliked about this game was the boss fights in some of them.
Yeah.
Like the last one, whenever you have a really big sprite like that, it's usually best to sort of like fix them right against the wall, so you're like attacking the wall.
Yeah. I will admit some of the boss fights were a bit sort of like meh. And I do believe that if it was just one person playing through this rather than two players, it would be a lot harder.
You have to get more upgrades, yes.
Yeah, which means you have to do a lot more grinding. But then again, this is a roguelike, so that is to be expected, I suppose. But yeah, I think it's a solid enough game. I won't say that I'm going to say again, I don't think the plot is anything particularly special.
No, it's basically a jealous god.
Yeah, well, it's but not even a god. It's just a jealous alien.
That too.
Yeah, but yeah, like it's like I would give it a solid sort of like 8. Like out of roguelikes I've played, a good solid like 8 out of 10. Like it's definitely up there. It's a very good roguelike, and the art style is very nice. But I don't see it having a lot of replayability for me.
I played through it once with a friend and once with you, and that's enough for me, basically.
Yeah, like unlike say something like The Binding of Isaac, where there's a lot of replayability, this I like the main like hook for this game really seems to be sort of like they're trying to push the narrative
And the art style.
and the art style, and the problem is that once you know the story, it's not as engaging, and like I said, the game expects you to have to grind a lot to get a lot of the stuff developed, a lot of the events to develop. I know that we missed, I'm pretty sure that we missed some of the events because we completed the game quicker than they probably expected us to.
And we also missed some of the cutscenes as well for like, other reasons.
Yeah. Which is something I said I don't like it, where they basically put cut screens behind basically being defeated, because it means
usually it's a better idea to have the cutscenes as like something you click on, so you can always like watch all of them.
Yeah.
Not have them automatic like this.
Yeah. I mean, this is the issue. Is like I said to you, like the issue the reason I dislike games having cut screens behind repeat attempts is that if you're good enough at the game, like you and I were, because we were being able to get through without too much issue, you miss a lot of the detail, and that's just something that's a bit of a shame, really. Because
you cut out there a little bit there, Cornish. You still there, Cornish? Alright, well, I guess until Cornish cuts back in here, we'll just keep you watching the credits here for a little bit.
Watch the cut screens, so actually missing cut screens was unfortunate. And there you go, DFuxa, you have logged off.
Yep, we had some sort of like error there.
Well,
oh well, we got through the credits.
Playing through with me, got DFuxa. And we will see you all again next time, folks, as we probably play another co-op game sometime in the future.
Indeed. For now, take care, guys. Goodbye. You started recording there yet, Cornish?
1 second. Sorry. Welcome back, folks. Sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties. So yeah, this is basically just a follow-up episode to tie everything together. It will be merged with. It's going to be merged with the end of like the boss battle. Just so we can basically have a bit of a more satisfactory conclusion to the co-op rather than what happened with DFuxa's game going strange.
I disconnected.
You disconnected, and haven't you also lost your save file?
Yep, I seem to have lost our save file, so...
Yeah, that's annoying. So, what has become unlocked for us is, well, for me anyway, because DFuxa's save is gone, is Game Plus, which is, as it sounds, it's just basically the game on a harder difficulty. They go back into levels and just basically try and beat opponents and do kind of things and get high scores. Man, our child grew up. Like the Burlington's Hope, like child Hope, really grew up in this game. Went from a baby to basically sort of like a
toddler,
like a toddler, like 5-6-year-old. But no. So yeah, let's do like our finishing conclusions. So personally, I think this game is a nice, like, for a co-op game. You and I have played a lot of co-op games, DFuxa.
This is one of the better ones.
And this is one of the better ones, yeah. The art style is very nice. The gameplay is like the way, like for a co-op game, the actual combat is very good. It's very responsive. There's not a lot of lag.
Well, at least on your end.
Yeah, on my end. How's it on your end?
Every so often there might be a couple blips where, like, I'm like sort of like porting everywhere, but for most part, it was fine.
Yeah. That I do have one or two sort of points about this game. I will say, one, the story isn't anything fantastic. It's a very sort of average story. And the big reveal that the god is just basically a very technologically advanced alien is a bit like, okay. And
he has a grudge.
Yeah, he's got a grudge. He's an alien. That's pretty much all that you need to really know. I will say that when it comes to my other point is basically character design, not like the story character, but basically the combat character. The elements of the characters you can pick from. Some of them are distinctly better than others.
That's to be expected, though.
Yeah, but it was one of the reasons that I was using Linda so much, because I found Linda was really good at just eliminating the sort of elite units of the game, which is where we were mostly getting killed by. We were getting killed by like elite units. So if you had Linda, you could literally just like VIP snipe a lot of the more elite enemies. I don't know. I just felt like some of the characters were just not on the they weren't of the same category as some of the others. For example, what was the one that used the daggers?
Kevin.
I did not like Kevin. Like he was
short range.
He was too close. And he relied really heavily upon crit chance, which meant that you had to sink a lot of... he only became easier to play once we got our crit chance percentage up. And...
he's good for doing a lot of damage in a short amount of time, but, he can't really dodge or, avoid damage.
No, because he has to basically build up his combat meter, basically. And, I don't know, there's just some characters, how did you find the DLC character? Because you played her. I was never that interested in playing her.
Apam was okay. The thing about her is that she's basically sort of like a mid-tier range character, so she basically is like, not like far away, but not like really close up either.
Yeah.
Really, like the characters that I really dislike the most were like Joey, Kevin, and to some extent John, but that's just because he's a newbie-friendly character.
Yeah, John is one of those characters where he's very much sort of
simple.
He's basically like a jack of all trades. He's a master of none. He basically has a long range attack. He has the ability to absorb damage, and he has a melee attack. Unfortunately, he's not that good at like on the later levels. He really struggled because even when you were blocking stuff, you still took a lot of damage with him.
Yep.
And this is one of the things I will say about is that some characters felt deliberately more suited for heavy grinding than other characters. Like Kevin and John, I got the distinct impression that they were designed for players that were going to basically do a lot of grinding to get a lot of stat increase, because they really played heavily into having large health pools and large crit chance meters increases.
Yep.
While other characters, for example, like the son who was the monk, I can't remember his name, sorry.
Mark.
Like Mark, or like Linda, or like the youngest, basically the fire mage, they're really powerful without having to have a ton of time sunk into them.
Yep.
I don't know. It feels a bit weird. I suspect that probably Kevin and John are characters that are better suited for single player, where you're basically where you're obviously having to do more grinding, and they're more powerful solo characters in comparison to, say, Linda, who I don't think Linda would be a particularly good solo player experience in this game.
Just because she doesn't have the ability to, stun lock things or anything.
Not for a long time. She gets her hymn, her battle hymn that basically stuns. There's a localized AoE stun, but even then, that takes a while for her to get. And the thing is that if you're moving with Linda, you're not doing a lot of damage with her because she basically gets damage penalties for moving while shooting.
Yep.
And so the thing is that like Linda's a really good co-op character, while like Kevin and John are very powerful single player characters where if you would invest time into them, they become very hard to beat. I would say that Kevin's optimum build is to have high dodge, high agility and high crit hit chance, and you literally just go in and do a ton of damage and then basically dodge out.
Yeah. I think probably the best character for co-op is probably Joey of all things.
Yeah.
The thing about Joey is that he's basically meant to be like brute who takes damage and deals out damage, so where like you can't really avoid damage, he's like best to like sit on top of the enemy or boss and just like smack into him while he takes the damage hits from him. Yeah.
I mean, personally, the combos that we had the most success with was Kevin and Linda, because those two were really good.
Yep.
And I can never remember the characters' names in this. Basically the Firemancer, the Fire Maid child. Lucy and Linda were really powerful together. Once Lucy got a little bit higher level, she was quite strong.
Yep, she could use her tornadoes to keep things away, so...
Yeah. I mean, like, towards the end of the game, when we had Linda and the DLC character, they worked quite well together, because the DLC character has a lot of push abilities, which keeps characters away from Linda, and allows Linda to basically either stun lock or basically AoE snipe, which was nice. I don't know. I was initially playing John, and once we got to like the second area, I noticed that John was becoming a lot less useful. He just couldn't absorb the damage, and he wasn't putting out the damage compared to the other characters.
I'll note one thing as well about this game, is that it's kind of short.
Yeah, actually. I mean, it looks long to the people watching on our channels because we basically have multiple like episodes. But like, how long have we been playing it? Actually, you can probably tell from your Steam profile. It's probably around 9 hours, I guess. Yeah, something like that, I think. Which seems long, but you consider how long you normally play a roguelike. I think this is one of the things. I think that this game, though it has a good co-op, was not really designed for co-op. Not really, which is...
It was sort of added on last moment.
Yeah. And you can tell the fact that a lot of the cutscenes require repeat playthroughs to trigger. A lot of the quests require repeat playthroughs to trigger the quests and to get items. Like, I know for a fact there was supposed to be a lot more animal companions that we didn't get. Like, because a lot of the animal companions are behind extra missions that you pick up as you go along, and we just didn't get them.
I'll note that if I was basically to redesign this game, I probably would have, like, you know, after you free the third god, like some sort of dungeon for the mountain god.
Yeah.
And be sort of a corruption themed area.
Yeah. I would either have it sort of the boss goes away, but it's oh yeah, the god, the aliens, the gods are gone, but the corruption remains, and yes, it's no longer as dangerous. It's still something for you as the Bergesons can basically go and delve into and try and put down, rather than it being you're literally just going back to the same maps again. That's one of the things I will say, is that there's not a lot of boss variety. Each chapter basically has between 2 to 3 bosses, and they don't change how they play. So once you know how you beat a boss, it's very straightforward to actually deal with them.
That's actually something worth knowing as well, by the way. Unless you actually learn how the boss basically works, it can sometimes be a bit of a chore learning it, how they basically work.
Yeah.
I'll note that part of the reason, I really they through this game with the boss and such is because I have prior knowledge of how they work. So I knew for the boss parts, Ooh here, with the mechanical setup and summons basically being popped in and missiles being fired everywhere. They had to basically glide a missile to the pillars to knock them out so you can basically open up the boss's shield. And There is like a little bit of a hint, by the way, in like the boss prior to that as well, where like use like the missiles to knock down the shield like the prior boss as well. But it wasn't like easily like described really to players, I think.
No, and that's, I think, and also there's some bosses where if we weren't playing co-op, they would be like really frustrating to fight, like that early boss in the Goblin Trenches,
the Minotaur boss.
Yeah, where basically you get it down to half health and then another one pops up. And those things are nasty enough on their own, and having two of them while you're playing a low-level character just seems relatively like nasty in single player.
Yep. Also, you have a lot of like unique gemstones and stuff to buy like upgrades.
But then again, that comes around to the other issue that I said I have with this game, which is that I don't mind roguelikes, but where it becomes obvious that they expect you to do a lot of grinding to basically normally progress, is something that I dislike, because basically it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, if you want to basically get past this boss, you really have to sort of grind. And it's like, I'm one of these players that believes that you should be able to beat a boss without having to like heavily grind to do it. Is you'd be able to beat it with skill rather than having to basically require you to do a lot of grinding just to get your stats up to where you can overwhelm it with basically a more powerful character.
Or at least have it sort of like balanced, so like you need a little bit like grinding up to it, but that's just because the natural like leveling up to it basically type of thing.
Yeah, like basically how it works in Dark Souls, where it's in Dark Souls, it's that you either beat the boss with like you're very skillful and you can beat the boss relatively straightforwardly that way, or you basically get yourself some good equipment and then you stand a better chance of doing it, and you get some levels and stuff. You can grind in Dark Souls, but it's basically it sort of falls off the cliff edge when it comes to the rewards versus what you get out of it. This game, I don't know. It's like we went back. Like one of the things I will say about this game is that going back to previous levels with higher level characters is not fun.
Not really, no.
When you go into the trenches, like if you go into a trench with into like the first area with like any character that's over level 8, you pretty much annihilate everything. Even the elite enemies can't really do much damage against you, and you can pretty much solo the bosses. So I don't know, maybe they should have done a more sort of like Diablo-esque kind of, the areas you went into basically got a modifier depending on the level of your character. Maybe that's what Game Plus has. Maybe the Game Plus mode does that. I don't know.
I'm not really interested in finding out either.
No, I'm not. Because the thing is, as you have said, and as I have said, this game is very heavily based around the story. The actual sort of roguelike elements of it, once you complete the story, aren't that appealing. And there's not a lot of incentives to go back. It's not like in, say, Binding of Isaac, where you start with a blank sheet every time you enter a map and you build your character up. You're basically going into each mission or into each map with an already formed character with abilities that you add stuff on top of as you go along. So the play styles become repetitive relatively quickly once the story isn't there to keep you going, in my opinion.
Yep.
I couldn't see myself basically playing this once the main story is completed. There's not the drawback to me to basically continue playing with the characters.
Yeah, it's pretty much just like one and done type of game.
Yeah.
And that's fine for some roguelikes, but
yeah,
it's a roguelike, so you kind of expect you have the ability to start play it again.
Yeah. But it was a nice experience. I will say that the art style is very pretty. It's one of the prettiest roguelikes I've seen.
And that's basically the chief draw for coming to this game. It's just for the aesthetics.
Yeah, was the aesthetics and the fact that they promised a very a solid co-op experience, which, as you and I both know, can be quite hard to come by nowadays.
Yep. In
indie titles, finding indie titles which have a solid co-op experience which actually works is fairly challenging. So it was nice to play a co-op game with you, DFuxa, where it felt like we had some issues. There was some lag on your end of things, but we could cohesively, we could basically reliably co-op without major problems.
Yep. It was a fun experience overall for the most part.
Yeah. And I want to say thank you for basically sharing it with me, DFuxa. It's like we've been meaning to play this game for a while, and but it's nice to be able to tick it off our list of games to co-op with.
Yep. Shall we sign off here?
Yes. I've been Cornish Knight.
I've been DFuxa.
And we will see you next time for our next foray into a co-op adventure sometime down the line. Goodbye, folks.
Maybe it'll be something with guns. Take care, all.
Bye.